Tonight's lesson is in Chapter 11 and it's Lesson 1, Angles and Fractional Parts of a Circle. Our essential question is, how can you relate angles and fractional parts of a circle? Make sure to write this essential question down at the top of your notes. Here are two important math vocabulary words. We have the word clockwise. Clockwise is the direction the hands move on a clock. Now we have counterclockwise. Counterclockwise is the direction the hands move opposite from the way the hands move on a clock. So if we look at our clock, we can see that clockwise would just go around the clock to the right. So if it's clockwise, it's going to the right. Counterclockwise is the opposite direction. That means that it would go opposite from the way the hands move a clock. So it would be going to the left, and that's counterclockwise. So clockwise is going to the right, and counterclockwise is going to the left. You can relate fractions and angles to the hands of a clock. So if we look at our clock here, we can see that 15 minutes has elapsed. That means 15 minutes has passed. And the hands of our clock moved to the right. So they started here and moved to the right. They went clockwise. Now I want to see what kind of turn did they make when they moved clockwise. Well, I know that my clock is divided into 12 equal parts. So let's see how many parts are shaded. 1, 2, 3. So I can say that 3/12 of my clock is shaded. If I could simplify this, I would divide it by the greatest common factor, which was 3. So 3/12 divided by 3/3 would be 1/4. So it made a 1/4 turn. If I divided my clock into 4 equal parts, I could see that 1/4 was shaded in. So it made a 1/4 turn. Now, let's think about what degrees this angle is that it made. And this is kind of going into our next lessons, but you guys are super smart, so you can handle it. Our degrees, this is a right angle. So that means that this turn was 90 degrees. It was a 90-degree turn. Let's look at our next clock. We have here that it started here and it went to the right. So that means it went clockwise, and 30 minutes has passed. So we know that our clock is divided into 12 equal parts, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts shaded. And I can simplify 6/12 by dividing it by the greatest common factor, which would be 6, and that would get me 1/2, because 6 is half of 12. So I can see that it made a 1/2 turn, didn't it? Because half of my clock is shaded. So the degrees for this, we could say that if we divided our clock into 4 equal parts, if I know that this part is equal to 90 degrees here, and then we have another 90 degrees, well, 90 plus 90 is 180 degrees. That's how much the turn is equal to, the angle. It also made a straight angle. If you can see here, that's a straight angle, and a straight angle is equal to 180 degrees. Let's look at some more examples. Here in this clock, we can see that 45 minutes has elapsed. That means that 45 minutes has passed. Our hands moved in a clockwise direction around the clock. That's what this arrow is telling me. They moved to the right. So that means it moved clockwise. Now, remember that our clock is broken up into 12 equal parts. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9/12 of my clock that is shaded in. It's made a 9/12 turn. I can simplify 9/12 by dividing it by the greatest common factor, which is 3. So I can say that 9 divided by 3 and 12 divided by 3, that would equal 3/4. So my clock, the hands of the clock, made a 3/4 turn clockwise. Remember, we can divide our clock into 4 equal pieces. And if I look, I can see that my 3 parts out of 4 are shaded. So we can say that the minute hand makes a 3/4 turn clockwise. If I was thinking ahead, and I know this is jumping ahead of our lesson, but I think you guys are super smart and I think you guys can handle it. Let's think about how many degrees the turn made. So I know that each part is 90 degrees. So if I have 90 degrees in this part and another 90 degrees here, and then a third 90 degrees here, I wonder what that would equal. Well, I can say, well, 90 plus 90, remember that is a straight angle, and that is 180. 180 plus another 90 degrees would be 270 degrees. So we can say that E equals 270 degrees of a turn. Let's look at this clock over here. We have that 60 minutes has elapsed. So 60 minutes has passed. And I can see that my hands of my clock went in a clockwise direction. And I can see that all parts of my clock are shaded. So really 12 out of 12 parts are shaded. So 12/12 equals 1 whole. So I can say that the hands of the clock made a 1 full turn clockwise. It went the whole way around the clock clockwise. If I divided my clock into my 4 equal pieces, I would also see that 4/4 is shaded in, and 4/4 equals 1 whole. So my clock made, the hands of the clock made a 1 full turn. It went the whole way around the clock, and it went clockwise. Okay, here are some practice problems for you. It says, tell what fraction of the circle the shaded angle represents. So we're going to have to look and see what is the shaded angle. What type of turn is this making if we were thinking about our clocks? And you're going to have to tell me what is the shaded angle representing of the circle. So what's the shaded area? And then our bonus is, do you know how many degrees that this angle would be worth? So you're going to have to tell me the shaded, what fraction of the circle the shaded angle is showing us, and you're going to have to tell me, if you can, the degrees of the angle. So you're going to write these down in your notes, and then you can pause the video to work it out and press play when you're ready to go over it. Okay, let's go over our answers. Here we have that the shaded angle is showing us the fraction of 1/2 because 1/2 of our circle is shaded. And the degrees would be, if you divided your circle into 4 equal parts, I would say that this is worth 90 degrees, this is worth 90 degrees. 90 plus 90 is 180 degrees. For number 2, it's making a 1/4 turn. So it's a 1/4 shaded area of the circle. That's what the angle is showing us. And if you divided your circle into 4 equal parts, we would say that this shaded area is worth 90 degrees. For number 3, it's showing us 3/4 of the shaded area of the circle. That's what the angle is making. If we divided it into 4 equal parts, we can see that 1, 2, 3 out of the 4 are shaded. our degrees. This is worth 90. Another 90 degrees is 180. And another 90 degrees is 270 degrees. And for number 4, we can say that it made a 1 full turn because the whole circle is shaded in. And if we divided our circle into 4 equal parts, we can see that 4 out of 4 are shaded, which is equal to 1 whole. And we have 90 over here, another 90, another 90, and another 90. So we could have that it's worth a 360-degree turn. That's what the angle is. Here's some more practice for you. It says tell whether the angle of the circle shows a 1/4 turn, 1/2 turn, a 3/4 turn, or 1 full turn. And you're going to tell me if it's clockwise or counterclockwise. So you're going to look at the direction that the arrow's going and tell me what type of turn it is, whether it's clockwise or counterclockwise. Remember, clockwise is going to the right, the way that clock hands move, and counterclockwise is going the opposite direction, to the left. And then you're going to have to tell me what type of turn it made. And remember, it helps to divide your circle into 4 equal parts. So go ahead and answer these in your notes, and we'll go over them in a minute. Press play when you're ready. Okay, let's go over your answers. Here, if we look at this circle, we can see that the turn it made was to the left, which is opposite the way the hands move on a clock. So it was counterclockwise. That's what you should have had. That's the type of turn. And if we divided our circle into 4 equal parts, we could see that the turn, it was a 1/4 turn counterclockwise. So it went 1/4. That's how much the turn made in the circle. 1/4 turn. If we look at our next circle, we can see that we started here in the area the arrow went around, it went to the right. So that means it's clockwise. If we divided our circle into 4 equal parts, we would see that it was 4/4, which would mean it was 1 full turn clockwise. And if we look at our third circle over here, we can say that it started here and it went clockwise. That's the turn it made. And it made a half turn clockwise because it turned half of the circle. So it made a half turn clockwise. And our last example, we can see that it started here and then it went to the left. So that means it was counterclockwise. And if we divide our circle into 4, we could see that it made 1, 2, 3, 3/4 turn counterclockwise to the left. I hope you did well on those. Here are your homework problems for tonight. Number 1 is a higher order thinking question. It says, Susan watched the game from 1 o'clock p.m. to 1:30 p.m. Describe the turn the minute hand made. So you're going to have to look at the clock and see if it started at 1 o'clock p.m. and it went to 1:30 p.m. What type of turn is that? Number 2 says, what fraction of the circle does the shaded angle represent? How many degrees is it? Number 3, tell whether the angle shows a 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, or 1 full turn, and it has to be either clockwise or counterclockwise. Make sure after you're done with your homework that you assess yourself. You can either tell me whether you're a novice, whether you feel you're apprentice, practitioner, or expert. Remember, if you're a novice or an apprentice, please rewatch this video for better understanding. Remember that your level goes at the bottom of your notes. Good luck on your homework problems, and I'll see you tomorrow for some fun practice. Bye!